Now what happens down there?
Welcome back to the Ruby Tuesday. My name's Ruben and this is my review for Netflix's original series by Guy Ritchie, director The Gentleman. If you've seen a film by him called The Gentleman, then this is a very similar story. But there's a lot different within it. Different actors, obviously, different stories somewhat. But you kind of know some of the, I guess, the architecture of what's going to happen within the story. But I was very surprised about how different and how much more nuance they were able to go within this and build upon characters that we didn't see build. I'm here to talk about whether it is worth watching this one, because we've had a film and now we have a series. So let's see if it works as a series. Eddie Horniman inherits a family estate. Initially unaware it's home to a drug empire run by a syndicate that has no plans to vacate. When it comes to Guy Ritchie dialogue, you know exactly what you're in for. And I guess it's a bit hit or miss depending on the level of quality of what people think is a good Guy Ritchie film. For me, they have been up and down. I will always go back to that original Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, which is one of my favorite from him. Even though it's quite old now, if you go back and watching the dialogue, the scripting in that with the actor, the caliber of acting that you get in there, it's just something that's gold. It's like honey to your ears. You just love watching it and listening to it. And that's what I got from these 8 episodes. Even though they're only 40 minutes, it is a fairly chunky series, 8 episodes. But it was very easy to get through. They are heavily dialogue written, as you'd expect, and there is some action, and when there is action, it's brutal, as you'd expect. Very much a Guy Ritchie creative. So what you have in a Guy Ritchie film is that gore blimey governor, but here we have a nuanced capabilities with that sort of English language, because we have the heritage of a person that is a duke. We have a somewhat royal encounter of our storyline here that mixes with the world that it shouldn't really mix with, but does quite work well together. So what we get is those nuanced dialogue scenes, but also with a sort of posh language, posh houses, posh way of living in amongst this gangster lifestyle. And you would think that they would clash, but because it's been crafted so well, you really enjoy what you're seeing. It's like watching The Crown and Peaky Blinders somewhat mashed together, and it really works for this series. I'd forgotten how much I enjoy dialogue like this. It literally is like butter, even though often what they're saying is, they're gonna cut off your balls and leave one testicle to a crocodile in the stream somewhere. They are still saying it in a way that feels like you're listening to intelligent people speak, and often some of the words that you hear, how they describe what's going on, the juxtaposition of that would be, someone being tortured to death in a very horrific way, but the posh speaking of the way they spell it out is so much fun to watch, that you kind of, or listen to, that you don't mind what it is that they're saying, and you kind of just enjoy what's going on. That's what I found in every single episode. Now, I will be giving my top 5 performances in this, because when it comes to a Guy Ritchie series or a movie, it is somewhat the cinematography and how it's filmed, but it's the story told with the actors and whether they can hold your presence with the quality and the heavy dialogue scripting. And I think they did. I think everybody did. But there were a few standouts. So obviously, whenever Ray Winston is on screen, he holds presence, and his character isn't on screen that much. But when you do see him, you love him on it. It just feels at home. And to go with that, talking about people who have presence on screen, Giancarlo Esposito. If you've ever seen him play a bad guy, even in Far Cry 6, I think it was, the presence he's able to portray with the intelligent dialogue that is given is fantastic. I loved him in Far Cry 6. I loved him in Revolution, going way back when. I just thought he was so fun to watch. Again, he doesn't have that much screen time, but when he's on screen, he's phenomenal. There's a couple of others that I want to mention before I go to the rest of my top 5, but Daniel Higgs, who plays Freddie Horniman, is the brother. He's a bit unhinged. We see a lot more of him, and he's the character that you kind of love to hate, who's always kind of breaking down what should be happening in the worst way. He's the guy that will make more trouble. I liked what he had, but I wouldn't say that I would send him as the standout. I did enjoy his performance. And Jolie Richardson, whenever she's on screen, she plays the mom, Lady Sabrina. Again, fantastic. And then we get our 2 main protagonists, who I'm going to just put them into one category as one, because it is really about both of them. We have Theo James as Eddie Horniman and Kea Scodelario. She plays Susie Glass, who is Ray Winston's character's daughter, kind of holding the keys to the kingdom. And when their characters are thrust together, when they're on screen together, they are dynamic. Whether it's them facing off against each other or kind of doing work in their own businesses, they really are the yin and yang. They are the circle that completes the story. And I like them together. Whenever they're on screen, it's like a formidable, powerful duo that, take over the kingdom sort of thing. And them together, great work. I think they work together really well. Whenever they were separate, they were fine, but together I thought they really brought something special. And for my second favorite, who's an actor I don't really know anything about, and I'm trying to think if I've seen him in anything else, probably like quintessential some British films that you'll recognize him from, but I loved this particular character. He's the guy that everybody sort of takes for granted. He's the guy that is growing the weed, but he has such a likable character about him, even though he's the type of character that gets used a lot. He wants love, but only kind of smokes weed, but you love the dialogue that you're getting from him because of the character that he is. He is dealing in drug business, but you immediately are rooting for him. And that is Michael Vu, who plays Jimmy. Now, Jimmy has an interesting arc that interweaves throughout the main arc, and in the end he became my second most favorite character to watch, to see what's going to happen with him. I was always worried for him, but was rooting for him. A very surprising number one actor in this. This is an actor I guess I've taken for granted, because I've seen him in action roles or violent roles, but I've never seen him in a role quite like this, where he is sort of the action role, but he's more he's a surrogate father figure role. He is the protective role. He's a fatherly figure role for a whole bunch of people, and a groundskeeper. And Vinnie Jones, he plays the best interesting character named Jeff Seacombe. I loved every scene that he was on. I was just more and more into his character, wanted to know more about him, felt very understated, but exactly what you needed for that character. He, for me, brought a softness, even though Vinnie Jones, you always think about this character that is super hard and, a football player or a hooligan. He brought a softness to these hard royals, there's everybody that's getting up to nonsense. A guy that's intelligent but is always around, knowing what to do, having your back, the guy that you can count on. That's what his character brought to it, and I thought Vinnie Jones executed it brilliantly. So he would be my number one spot. When it comes to this series itself, I thought it was a great ride, very interesting story. Has those twists and turns that you'd expect from a Guy Ritchie series, and then has some more of that. The people you trust and the people you don't trust. It's the dialogue, the banter, the quirkiness of that dialogue with the actor's caliber that you'll enjoy in the end. And I think this is one that you can watch with most of your adult family, because there is a lot of violence. No sex that I can remember, like none whatsoever as far as I can remember. Lots of language, lots of violence. Well executed scenes, very entertaining, not heavy on the action, but when it is there, it's very violent. But for me, it was the quirkiness and the dialogue of the characters. Classic Guy Ritchie, one of the best I've seen from him in a while. So I'm going to give this 4.5 Nicolas Cages out of 5.
You got one.
Let me know your thoughts and feelings. Let me know who was your favorite, maybe top 3 characters in this, or your favorite top 3 Guy Ritchie films. I know people have their own views and opinions on his films. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks so much for watching, but most of all, until next time, remember, live long and Tuesday.